When it comes to ranking up in Season 2, most of the community is pretty divided on the situation. You have Group A saying that it's rigged, it's impossible to climb, the only way that you climb is if you spend hours and hours and hours playing the game, and then the game will just automatically push you up. Then you have Group B that's saying that it is harder to climb, and that's intentional because a lot of the people that played last season didn't deserve their ranks, which is why they can't get back to it or even surpass it this season. Now, honestly, there's some truth to kind of both of them, and I want to talk about that today. So let's talk ranked. Now, as I said before, I see the point of view of both sides. I don't really think both sides are entirely right, but I also don't think both sides are entirely wrong. Now, there's a few points that I want to talk about regarding the rank system and just kind of express how I feel about it. So the first thing is the new performance-based system. When the developers first spoke about the performance-based system, everyone was initially excited, but once it hit the live patch, people started noticing difference in their point gain. They would notice that their gain was less, they would notice that they would lose a lot more, and they'd be like, what's up? What's going on? The community then came to the conclusion that if you are not playing DPS, if you're not having high damage numbers, or if you're not having final hits, you don't get a lot of points. And I was like, that sounds really incorrect. And so I decided to make a video on it. As you see, the videos right there. I did a lot of tests. I played all the characters, all the roles, all on their own accounts. The point gain was pretty similar across all. On top of that, it was pretty similar to last season. On top of that, I also looked at other accounts from my Discord. On top of that, I looked at other accounts for higher ranks as well. There wasn't much of a difference. I don't really know where this started. I don't know what myth started it, but it was fine. Again, I recommend watching that video. It was pretty good. That being said, players did notice a little bit of a difference. Now, this is to be expected. A lot of the players that climbed last season, believe it or not, didn't really do a lot of work to climb. What they would do is they'd play with their friends, or they would kind of just skate to high ranks. And if there's a performance-based system calculating how good you are, but you never really performed well enough, you're gonna start noticing some dips. On top of that, the game punishes you for playing with other players, especially if their rank is a gap from yours. So there's a lot of things to account for, and I think the default reason to why they're not gaining points was just the system rather than their own gameplay or their own personal choice of playing with players that were better than them. Also, talking about the performance-based system, how it actually functions is it takes you and your character and it compares you to the other players in that rank that's playing your character. So if I'm playing, as an example, Captain America, and I'm in silver, and I'm outperforming a silver Captain America, then that means I will gain more points and I will lose less points. This goes for every character. It doesn't matter what role you play. It doesn't matter what character you play. It's only judging you based off of the people in your rank that's playing that character. It's not about your performance to the other 11 players. It's just you, the character, and the people in that rank. That's how that performance-based system works. So if you're noticing your point gain is a little bit low, it's because the people in your rank are doing better than you at that character, and you should start improving. They also made an adjustment that allowed the stats to be a little bit more recent. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but they have a hot list on their site that gives you the win rates, the pick rates, and all that extra good stuff. But usually that's updated from the recent patch. It's not the patch that we're on, it's the patch that was before that. So generally speaking, I think that's how their stat system for the performance system worked as well. It was calculating based off the last season, not this one. And so they made a adjustment so that it's more accurate with what we're playing right now. And however long you spend on your character, that's going to be factored in. The more you flip-flop between characters and perform horribly on them, the less points you're going to gain and the more you're going to lose. I also want to add the point difference is not that much. It's about 3 to 5, more or less. On a good day, it's 5. On a pretty normal day, it's about 2 to 3. So it's not a lot of a point difference, and you really wouldn't even notice it if you're consistently playing well anyway. The second point that I want to hit on is the higher ranks and now lower ranks. So every season, people start to demote. Well, in season 1.5, that didn't happen. So we started season 1, we were ranking. The community did not want a rank reset, so they listened. And we didn't have a rank reset until season 2. So this means we went through essentially 2 seasons. It's half a season, but we went through 2 seasons of ranked without having a reset. This means players are definitely not calibrated correctly. So not only do you have people like in ranks that they shouldn't be from time to time, but also like It was just bad. It was bad. It was bad. It was not a good rank system, especially if you were in a high rank player. You understand that there's a lot of people that were probably in your games that made your games very, very difficult. Lower ranks, not so much, but if you are a high rank player, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That being said, players that didn't deserve their rank are now having a harder time climbing back to their rank, and they are also having a harder time surpassing their rank. I want to give you a little story here, and I'm not going to out the person because, you know, I don't do that. But I was playing on my tank account, my alternate tank account. I was in Diamond 1. There's this one tank that played super passive. Like, oh, it was unbelievably frustrating passive. And I don't flame anybody, but I did ask them to hold their ground more because they were just always walking backwards. And I was like, you're giving up space after space. And the player proceeded to talk about KDA. And I was just thinking, if you're a high ranked player, bro, like KDA doesn't matter. It's the contribution you have to the game. And my KDA wasn't really that bad. It was the only times that I KO'd was because he wasn't there. It was really weird. You would have, if you were a high ranked player and you expected a high ranked player as a second tank, you would be shocked what you saw. And so at the end of the game, you know, the player, he's just basically whining the entire game and raging at me. So we move into the second game and we ended up winning. The guy was on the opposite team. Our team just kind of ran through him and his team, and it was for the same exact reason. The dude gave up so much space that his team couldn't play. So then I was like, what rank were you last season? I look at this guy's rank. The highest rank that he had was Celestial 1. He was almost Eternity. However, we cannot hold space. You are a Lord Magneto player, a Lord Strange player, and we cannot hold space. We're holding space like we're a Platinum player. It did not make sense. I looked at the stats and it showed that the player had played 300 games and was in Diamond 1 for 300 games. Now, if you guys don't know, if you were Celestial 1, I believe you dropped down to maybe Platinum 1 or Diamond 3. One of the two. So with that in mind, we spent 300 games in the same spot. That right there is just one of the examples of a player that probably did not deserve their rank anymore. And I bring this up because a lot of players do feel like I can't climb this season. It's impossible to climb this season. I can't get out of this rank this season. It's because you probably didn't deserve it. And I know that's a really hard truth to swallow, but realistically speaking, no one's holding you back. Yes, you're going to lose some games because your team is probably having a really off day. But at the end of the day, if you're consistently playing well, not even winning, but consistently playing well, you will just start coasting and climbing slowly. That's just how ranked works. The fact that these higher ranks from last season are now in your rank makes it harder. If there's a diamond player now in silver, right, and that is a diamond player from last season, well, guess what? If you're a silver player that's for real, you most likely aren't going to be able to hit gold because that's a diamond player. Even though it's not a real diamond player anymore compared to this season, it is still a rank that's higher than yours that you had got last season. So now every rank is pretty much flooded with players who could not get back to their previous rank, and they are obviously better players than those who were in last season. It's a really weird type of situation to be in, and this is why it might feel like it's harder for you to climb, whether you're the person that's truthfully silver or gold and you have these ranks that are in your rank because they can't climb anymore, or you're the player that can't get back to your rank and you're finding it very hard. That's because, again, people are smashed above you that are actually better than you from last season. Even if they can't get back to their original rank, they are still technically a higher rank than you were at last season, which means they have more skill than you last season. Now, you guys see me climb accounts on stream, and this is something that I was speaking about firsthand. I was noticing how much more difficult it was to climb through ranks. Now, even though that I am a higher rank than obviously all the ranks that I were playing in, it was still noticeably harder. And now when I say harder climb, not necessarily like I'm losing my matches, but harder climb in the sense of each match was a little bit stressful. And as you got to Diamond, as you got to Grandmaster, then the games became just extremely sweaty at that point. Like, it was sweaty. So the climb is definitely harder this season than it was last season. Not only that, but some of the matches are a little bit lopsided. Not all of them. You don't see them too often, but they do happen. And it's enough to talk about. So if I'm in gold, right, and I'm on my gold account, my team is gold, but their team has like 1 gold and the rest of them were like diamonds that used to be gold. Well, this is a lopsided game because the people that are currently gold that has never gotten past gold are not going to be as skillful as the players that had gotten to diamond. So you can kind of see where the inconsistencies are, especially if people start playing in squads where they have teammates that are higher ranked. Like, it's a little bit iffy. But the bright side is I can see that they're trying to fix the rank system right now, and I just think they're trying to do it little by little, and I think as time progresses it will become a lot better. I already see a drastic difference in the players that want to win and in the players that want to start climbing. So it's already working. It's already working. Moving on to the third point that I want to talk about is just the lack of roles needed to win. So this is something that happens, doesn't matter what rank you are, low rank, high rank. People will skip off roles to play whatever role they want to play, leaving the other roles with lacking. So if you need damage, you have 3 tanks and 3 healers. Some people just are scared to play DPS for some reason. Some games you'll have 1 tank on defense when they have 2 tanks. Your 1 tank's gonna get ran over on defense. It just happens. I see it all the time. Same thing when people will leave only 1 healer. It's really weird, and it's not even like, oh, everybody wants to play DPS and that's not what's happening. It's like even. It's like everybody wants to play tank for some reason some games. Everybody wants to play healer for some reason some games. Everybody wants to play DPS for some reason some games. It's really weird. I don't know what's going on in that regard. So that's usually what's happening when I lose games more often than not. And when I say lose games, I'll say the games that I've lost on my I'll say my tank account. It's usually because we're lacking an extra healer, we're lacking an extra tank, or we're lacking an extra DPS. And all of them are crucial. Some games you need more damage, some games you need more healing, some games you need more tanking. And the fact that we're intentionally losing out on one role, even when someone is asking them to play that role, until the last second. Why are you waiting until the last second to swap to something we need? You should have been doing this way before. And I'm not saying swapping to a character that we need. I'm saying swapping to a role that we need. We're throwing games because why? And those are the games that I usually lose on stream. And you guys have seen it if you watch my stream. It's pretty crazy. And I know a lot of people are kind of venting this frustration because it's like either you need to swap, like you as the player, you need to swap to fill that gap, or if you don't, your team's just gonna let it happen. The worst part is that some of these players that are not trying to play tank, not trying to play healer, are lords on both of these roles. So why are we not, or DPS, they're lords on these roles, but they're playing another role, just intentionally. If you know that we need it and you lord it, why are you not? So it happens quite frequently in a lot of the games that I've lost, and it's not a lot of games that I've lost. I'm just saying a big portion of my games that I lost, and I don't really lose that much when I'm playing on a lower account. It's, you know, I shouldn't really. But I'll say that if I lost about 20 times, I'll say about 12 to 15 of them were to something like that, right? It was to something where someone waited until the last second to swap to what we needed and we just didn't have enough time to play the game anymore, or just the team was like, whatever, and we would lose because we have 1 healer, we would lose because we have 1 tank, we would lose because we have no DPS, or just something really, really random like that. So that's generally what I see a lot of. And again, it's not low rank or a high rank situation, it's all ranks, and that's what I think is also causing it to be way more difficult to climb. Imagine if you struggle so hard to win game 1, you go to game 2 and someone just throws your game away. Whether it be because they're AFK, whether it be because they there's a lot of disconnects too, like a lot of people rage quitting. Whether it be because of that, whatever, but it's like, okay, I put a whole bunch of work in game 1 and I just auto lose game 2, bro. That sucks and it feels horrible. So I don't really know what they could do about that situation other than having a role queue. As I said before, I think having a role queue would be beneficial. What I suggest is just not forcing the character picked, but just force the role to be queued into. So the game performs the exact same. You get in, you can swap roles if you want, you can swap characters if you want, whatever you want to do. But that initial front end, you're picking your role. So that way when you get in, you're understanding like, hey, this is the role that I wanted. And if I want to swap, I'll swap, but I queued for this. So this is my name's on this role. Now just moving on to my verdict and my thoughts, I definitely think that the game is harder to climb in both aspects. One of the aspects just being the fact that there are a lack of roles because people are not wanting to play them. There are players that are in certain ranks that are there because they deserve to be, but also it's impacting the people who are true to that rank. Again, if I'm a gold player and someone used to be diamond or someone used to be grandmaster and they're stuck in gold, but now you're in my games, well, you're a better player than me, hands down, which means that I'm gonna have a harder time climbing. Now, that being said, this is something that happens with all games. The game needs to even its ranking system out. On season 0, anyone and their mama could get high ranks, right? And as it progressed, it kind of still felt that way until now. So it took 2 seasons to kind of balance that out. And I don't think we're there yet. We might still be balancing that out. And so, yes, it's harder to climb on the stuff that you can't really control. It is a much more rewarding system now, though. If you do climb, it's because you deserve to climb. The fact that you can surpass these people that used to be a higher rank than you because they can't get out of a certain rank should feel great to you. If you're a gold player that hit platinum and that grandmaster is gold still, and you're like, bro, that should feel really rewarding, especially because you know that your skill was good enough to actually surpass that player. I do feel like this is a way to fix what they had wrong before, because their primary focus, they already said in a dev blog, it was not for rank. That wasn't their goal. But maybe they're starting to backtrack on that a little bit and really trying to focus their efforts into making this system great. Because a lot of players do play ranked. I love ranked. I like normals too. This is one of the only games where I would actually play normals and have a good time. But I do enjoy myself some ranked, and I want to have a great experience, whether it's low rank or it's high rank. I want to have that great experience. And if this is something that we have to struggle with for a season or half a season, I think I'm willing to do it. So that way the road onward will be a lot better. That being said, though, I do not think any of the changes that they made to the system or any of the issues that players are having in terms of like the lack of roles needed or people rage quitting and stuff like that, that doesn't prevent you from climbing. This goes for all games, not even Marvel Rivals specifically, but every game that has a rank system, unless it's paid to win, every game that has a rank system, these outside factors are always going to happen. Matchmaking, people doing things that they shouldn't be doing, just random stuff, maybe disconnections, just random stuff. You can't control that, but you can control how you play. You can control your consistency. In every single rank system that I've played, that literally was the way to climb. Be consistent and you will win more games. You will climb a lot faster. And I feel like if you are having a hard time in a rank, whether it's bronze, whether it's silver, whether it's gold, whatever rank it is that you're having to struggle in and preventing you from reaching your goal, really think back and think to yourself, am I playing well? If you really are having a hard time, submit a VOD review. I do them for free. Check out the latest video called The Breakdown on my channel. And just take a quick second to comment on the highlighted pinned comment on that video. It takes a few seconds, get your VOD in there. I can help you and I can let you know what it is that you might be lacking in to help you start winning more games. Speaking of more games, let's move on to our next segment that I have at the end of each video called #Let's Talk. If you want to ask me anything, if you want to talk about anything Marvel Rivals related, whatever it may be, buffs, nerfs, changes, anything, let me know with the #Let's Talk, and I will put your comment on the screen and talk about it. The first comment that we have is from Blaze Dragon Neo. #Let's Talk. Why does this game seem more toxic than others right now? I personally haven't ran into many toxic games or run into many toxic games that were more toxic than League of Legends. I've covered League of Legends for years, and I'm talking about 13 plus. I have yet to run into a situation or a string of matches where they are more toxic than that game. League of Legends, that was that was a moment. Now I will say I don't use comms when I climb. I don't chat that often when I climb. If I chat, it's to say something like, hey, we need a tank, or something like just something simple, a little simple command or question. But for the most part, I don't use comms. So that could probably be why I don't experience it. But every now and then I will see in chat someone talking about KDA or saying GG, no heals and whatnot. But I don't think that's toxic. I think that's just more like blame. Can we consider that toxicity? Saying that, oh, it's somebody else's reason to why we lose? It's just kind of blame. I'm thinking more toxic, like treating others bad or talking about their personal life and things like that, or the character choice, the role choice. Like, I think that's super toxic. But let me know. What do you guys think? Do you guys find this game more toxic than others? I don't know. Moving on to the second one, #Let's Talk. From my experience, it's usually the DPS that's the problem, not tanks. They will see you get dove and still ping for a heal instead of going to a health pack and then coming to help. Tanks with mobility at least try to be self-sufficient. Why is Spider-Man pinging me for heals while I am fighting for my life? One thing I disagree with you on is stacking being easier than solo queue. I'm doing both right now, and 3-stack is so much harder. The reason why you may feel like 3-stacking is a little bit harder is because your 2 teammates are not performing well, or you 3 are not performing well as a group. A lot of the times what happens is if people decide to play together, it kind of works like this. You usually are just playing together and you're not on comms, or if you are, you're not really talking about playing well, or you're not really talking about playing well. What? You're not really talking about your strategy and like, okay, I'm going to go over here, I'm going to go over there. Also, most players, when they're squatted up like that, treat the other players like they're not their teammates. Like it's basically 3 versus 3 versus 6. And that's usually what I see too. So if you are in that type of situation where it's like the games seem harder, maybe that's why. Also, there's an issue that happens when you play with players as well, and this is something that I've learned a long time ago when I used to professionally coach League of Legends, is that when people play together, they generally start having an echo chamber. And what I mean by this is if anything goes wrong, they end up blaming everybody else and not their actual group. And so I don't think the games are harder. I just think there's a possibility that their pre-mades are better than your pre-mades, not just your group, but like the other group that there might be in. Because it could be 3-3 and then 3-3, right? So it could be 4 groups mixed into one match. But generally speaking, the defeatist mentality, when somebody does something wrong and let's just blame that guy, it triggers a lot when you play with the group. And a lot of people that play with the group aren't playing super serious. They're just hanging out, having a good time. Whereas if you're playing solo, then you're focused more on yourself, you're focused more on playing the game, and that could be why it's easier for you to climb solo. Also, it could just be a preference thing. Maybe you're just better at playing by yourself than you are better than playing with people. But generally speaking, it is way easier to play with a group because you can rely on them more often. But of course, that's just my experience with this game and other games as well. That's usually what happens. But let me know, what do you guys think? Do you guys have an easier time playing with your pre-made, or do you guys feel like it's better to play solo? Usually when I play with pre-mates, I can see when they're not good enough to be where I am, or they're not playing well enough. And if they don't play well, I stop playing with them. That's not because I feel like the games are too hard. It's just that my partner or partners can't keep up and I decide to just play by myself. That happens quite frequently in a lot of games. And usually if you do not stop playing with them, they'll tank your account and make the climb much, much, much harder on yourself. So I usually give like a 1 to 2 lose limit and be like, all right, it was fun, peace. And then I'll go from there. I don't queue that often with other players in this game. I usually play solo, especially when it comes to making guides and stuff for this channel. Also, I forgot to mention your name. Thank you for that comment, Savage. I appreciate it. Moving on to the next comment, Jord Blitz, hashtag let's talk. Do you think it's problematic that traditionally bad characters like Captain America, Iron Fist, or Mr. Fantastic finally get buffed for being an acceptable part of the meta, only to be instantly nerfed because they are now doing too well? This actually happens quite often. That's not the word I'm looking for. This happens more than you think. That's what I meant to say, but I didn't mean to say it that way. So what generally happens is some characters don't even need a buff, but the thing is, if the players feel like they are weak, then that means the developers need to figure out a way to make it so that people want to play them. And this happens a lot. A lot of the times players feel characters are weak, whether they don't know how to play them properly, whether they just didn't figure out the right strat, maybe, whether they didn't figure out the right combination of characters to make them succeed. Whatever it may be, sometimes the community as a whole is like, bro, this character sucks. I don't want to ever play them. And if they don't buff them, they're not going to get the play rate that they want that character to have. So for characters like Captain America, Iron Fist, Mr. Fantastic, a lot of high-ranking players or a lot of people that have a lot of views on Twitch or YouTube, they would typically say these characters suck, which means everybody else kind of follows it. There's a lot of follow mentality in Marvel Rivals, not just Marvel Rivals, but other games as well. League of Legends was another one where people generally just kind of listen to people and they don't think about it themselves or try it themselves. And so those players would say that this character sucks, and then everybody else is like, yeah, it sucks. And it doesn't. I'm one of the channels that are like, bro, I'm gonna tell you the truth. If I don't think it sucks, it doesn't suck. I didn't think Captain sucked until high rank. Iron Fist was always broken. Mr. Fantastic was always broken. But the buffs just kind of let the players know, like, hey, we're doing stuff. We're doing stuff. Look. And then people are just like, oh, okay, I see it. Let me try it again, right? What is the thing that you usually see when a character gets buffed, even if it's just a smidge? Higher content creators are going to be like, let me see the new buffs. You're going to see videos that say, check out the new buffs to this character and stuff like that. That's what they want. Because if they do that enough, someone's going to say it's broken. The people that tend to follow and not try it themselves will agree that it's broken. Even if they don't play the character, they'll just like, subconsciously do it. They'll get into a match, see a character doing well. Oh my God, it's broken. The connection's there. That creator said it's broken. I played against it. We lost. It's broken. I hate it. Boom, broken. That's what happened with Groot. And so at that point, then people will start playing these characters and then they'll start nerfing them again. This happens quite often. Characters technically aren't bad. It's just people need to get that push to try it. I will say Captain America's change was necessary though, being able to block in the air, and there's another thing that he had with the melee attack. Like all that needed to be fixed. So they did a lot of quality of life to that character. But in terms of like Iron Fist and Mr. Fantastic, they did do some great changes, and I think they were great. They're lovely. But at the same time, they weren't really necessary because they still function the exact same as they do now with a little bit of tweaks. So again, yeah, to answer that question, that's just how game development works. If people aren't playing a character, even if the character is fine, they're going to have to do something to try to say, try the character again, try the character again, try the character again. And when you finally try that character, or a creator finally tries that character, and everybody starts playing it more, then they're like, okay, we did our job. We kind of overtuned them, or her. We overtuned them, and now we need to dial it back because they didn't need it in the first place. We just did it to get people to play it. So that's generally what happens. That is not the first time, and it definitely will not be the last time, let me tell you. Remember, if you want to talk about anything, or you want me to address anything, changes, characters, updates, patches, whatever, make sure you do that hashtag Let's Talk, so that way that I know that it's you want it in the video, and I'll respond to it and give you my honest opinion about it. Until next time, you know what I always say, the Kikachu doing what? Popping often, will often.